Grace and peace, family. Grace and peace. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Ma'at hotep. Namaste. Free the land, beloved. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Welcome to a very special edition, a Memorial Day special edition of The Vicky Show. We're so pleased that you are with us today. As you come in, a little bit of housekeeping before we get ready to get into this most important subject today. As you come in, please come in giving us the thumbs up, thumbs up. Little housekeeping. Be sure to like and share. If you're watching us on another one of our platforms, please make sure that you engage, that you like, and that you share. Remember, at the bottom of your screen, there is a share button. And if you copy the link, you can share it out on your social media pages and platforms, as well as email them and text them to other people and let them know that there's a special edition of The Vicky Show that's on right now. And we're getting ready to talk Black on this Memorial Day. Also, we want you to know that you can text the word Queens to 31996 so that you're able to receive phone notifications when we go live from time to time. We are so thankful and pleased that you joined us today. Now, let me get ready to get right into it. I want to say shout out to my Instagram family. I'm so glad that you've joined us. Instagram, I came on live to invite you to come to FlyNubianQueenTV.com. By the way, family, if you're watching me elsewhere, you can follow me on Instagram at Vicky X Dillard. Instagram, please get ready to come on over to FlyNubianQueenTV.com. Please get ready to come on over to FlyNubianQueenTV.com in just a moment because I'll need to use this device. Shout out to you, the official crown of tresses. For your gift, I bless it 1,000-fold. I love each of you. Thank you so much for your kind words and tuning in for this special show. Listen, we know that today is Memorial Day. It typically is attended by picnics and barbecues, time with family and friends. And for mainstream white America, for the most part, hear me, she celebrates her killers. When we think about American founding fathers, as they call them, we know that many of them were slaveholders. They slept with and raped children, which means that they were pedophiles. We know that George Washington was a general. We understand that the realities, the world of our oppressors, how they see things is not how we see them. Oh, you're tuned into The Vicky Show today. You're not going to get ready to get this from ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox News. Somebody talk Black to me. But for us, we utilize every opportunity to recognize those that have come before us and the most important issues, that is, of the Black man and the Black woman in America. There's never not an opportunity where we can't make the case for reparations and for Black liberations. Shout out to you, Williams, for your gift. Knowledge always gets my lunch money. Thank you, beloved, for your kind words and your gift. Thank you, Vicky, for your kind words and your gift. I bless it 1,000-fold. Listen, that's right, Instagram, where Make Haiti says Black media. Thank you, beloved. Listen. So I began to think on Memorial Day. And of course, when you do just a little bit of research, you find that like everything else in the whole wide world, y'all play too much. Doing a little research on the origins of Memorial Day, just a little bit, just a cursory look at the subject, we find that like everything else that exists in the world, that was our idea too, my God, today, directly or indirectly. We are directly responsible for everything good that's on the planet, directly or indirectly. Or we inspired it in some way. I stand firmly behind that? Well, Memorial Day, they said that they initially credited with some women going to grave sites and putting flowers and roses, and that sounds very feminine and very ladylike. But of course, they're thinking about the Karens and the Beckys of the world. Listen. But some scholars and historians have found that a year before that, Black former slaves or black enslaved were the ones that initiated this holiday. So maybe the holidays is ours. Somebody talk back to me. Memorial Day. So this is something that we're going to talk with. This is something that we're going to talk about. And this is something that we're going to remember. Watch this. So now that we've gotten the origins of Memorial Day out the way, I was thinking this morning, Black family, as I was overcome with emotion, thinking about doing this show, how it is an extraordinary honor and glory to be Black. Lord have mercy. If you can see it right, because of God's mighty plan for our lives, and because of what's on the horizon, because of what we're building, what we're becoming, it is an extreme privilege to be us. Shout out to you. We shall rise. For your gift, I bless it 1,000-fold. She says our FBA government is now official. Somebody talk Black to me. Watch this. You've heard me say on many occasions on the Vicky Show, because we have Memorial Day on a regular basis, just like we celebrate Black history year round. There are different kinds of soldiers. There are different kinds of warriors. And the most detrimental wars are not those that mainstream media puts before our faces on a regular basis. There are other kinds of wars that are way more detrimental and that have lasted for centuries. That everlasting, seemingly, war against Black people in America, and even by extension around the world, has gone on for 5 centuries practically. So I want to talk about perhaps an unknown aspect, or let's say a little spoken about aspect of war stories. I'm going to talk about war, military proper, and for purposes of this show, military so-called improper. What do I mean by that? You know, there are certain wars that America acknowledges is a real war. She's proud of herself when she talks about the Revolution, the Civil War, World Wars I and II, and others. Is she not? Those types of wars are those that I'm referring to, and I made this up, of course, as military proper, war proper. But the military improper, war improper, is that everlasting seemingly war that she has waged against us since before America was ever America. Somebody Black talk Black to me. Shout out to you, 777 Showtime, for your gift. I bless it 1,000-fold. You say, my sister, you are so loved and blessed, and we thank you for your knowledge. Oh, it's my privilege and my honor. Thank you for your kind words and your gift. I bless it 1,000-fold. Listen, Instagram. Come on over Instagram to flynubianqueentv.com. I'm getting ready to get into it. Flynubianqueentv.com. I need to use this device. Thank you so much. Listen. Watch this. I've said on a regular basis, on a consistent basis, that there are different types of soldiers. And while America likes to think that she is so patriotic and so American and so selfless, we know, shout out to you, Herbert, that there is no more American or more patriotic person on the planet than the Black man and the Black woman. I'm going to say it again. Nobody is more patriotic or American than foundational Black Americans. For indeed, we built this country. We sustain and maintain it until this day. We fought in every one of your wars. War proper, military proper, military improper, war improper. Oh, I'm going to break it down briefly for you. I'm going to get on with the get on. I know some of you all probably want to enjoy some of your friends and family long distance, and perhaps some of you are with some of your family and loved ones, to where hopefully you will maintain appropriate social distancing. And that if you go out, of course, outside is good ventilation. Make sure that you are not within proximity of knuckleheads. Somebody talk black to me. Use your head, Black family. Somebody talk black to me. So I'm going to let you get into it. I'm going to get through this in a reasonable amount of time, inshallah. Listen. So I want to talk about a little known or little discussed element of war stories. Somebody put in the chat, let's talk war stories. Let's talk war stories. And let me just put this in. Give me 1 second as I do this, family. Put in the chat, please, war stories. War stories. War stories. Thumbs up, family. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Please like, please share. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Vicky Show. Awesome. 1, 2, 3, thumbs up. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Here we go, family. Thank you so much. Now, I want to read to you. I was posting this on my Instagram, family, since I just hung up on them. So I thank you so much for your patience. Again, follow me on Instagram if you would, at Vicky X Dillard. Follow me on Instagram at Vicky X Dillard. Now, let's get ready to get into what we need to get into. I was doing some research for today. And again, it was just, I felt in my spirit, let me go ahead and do this today instead of maybe some other subject that I'll, God willing, get to perhaps later on in the week. Okay. I think this is important. I found this article fascinating that I pulled up from history.com. And it was also, I have another link here that was provided. So this information that you can read yourself at some other time will also be provided for you in the link. And Judith says, teach Vicky war stories. Yes, ma'am, war stories. I'm going to do my best, beloved. So this from history.com was written about 1.5 years or so ago. And it talks about how black nurses were relegated to care for German POWs. Somebody say black female nurses. Shout out to you, Jessica, for your gift. I bless your gift, Jessica, 1,000-fold. And Eric for your gift. Jessica says, thank you, Vicky. You're a true activist for our people. Thank you. Eric says, you're making the ancestors proud. I'm voting for you to be president, not vice president. Oh, you're so kind. Even though I'm pleased to be president of the Vicky Show. But I understand. Thank you so much for your kind words and your kind sentiments. Watch this. This is FlyNubianQueenTV.com, right? Can we say shout out to Black women today? Can we talk about this? We're going to deal with the brothers. But this is, I think, is a little known war story. Watch this. Before President Truman desegregated the U.S. military on July 26 of 1948, Black nurses had fewer and less desirable opportunities in the U.S. Army Nurse Corps. Somebody say shout out to Black female soldiers. Lord have mercy, y'all play too much. Somebody say, shout out to Black female soldiers. You do know that there are different types of soldiers. And one of the ways that some of our sisters served early on were as nurses, but they were considered soldiers. Somebody say soldiers. Oh, we're going to remember you today, sis. We're going to remember our sisters today, family. The picture that we're using here, and I'm going to put it back up here so you can see it. This is what I posted on my Instagram page. This is a picture that I posted on my Instagram page. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, family. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Make sure that you like, make sure that you share, and please make sure that you are subscribed. We just hit 110,000 subscribers. Yay to you all. Yay to you all. I am pleased to be a contributor here on FlyNubianQueenTV.com, as well as a couple of other platforms, along with Your Black World TV, among others. And family, you are helping us to grow. We are also on FlyNubianQueen.com on Facebook, where we have, 500 and something plus thousand subscribers, as well as my show being syndicated and played on other networks. That's thanks to you all. And we're going to continuously, by the grace of God, grow this network. So thank you so much. Look at this dear picture. Look at this picture. I chose to use that photo. Can you all see that? Do you see that Black woman? Do you see that Black soldier, warrior? How many of you all know we fight in different ways? Watch this. This is Lieutenant Florence E. Grant. Somebody say this is Lieutenant Florence right there. That sister that you're looking at, that's Lieutenant Florence E. Grant. That's Lieutenant Florence E. Grant is her name. Lord have mercy. Lieutenant Flory, I'm sorry, I said Florence. Flory, Florie. Flory E. Grant. There, y'all, she's tending to a patient at a prisoner of war hospital in 1945. That picture came from the National Archives. Somebody say in 1944, she was there tending to a prisoner of war. She was there tending to a patient at a prisoner of war hospital. Now, let me tell you how this happened. Lieutenant Flory, Florie. I want to get it right. Lieutenant Flory. I call it Florence, but it's Flory. We're remembering our sister today. We're remembering those others. I don't know how many of them may be alive or not, but whether they are our elders or our ancestors, we honor them on this day because Black folks live different kinds of deaths. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Let me keep going here. Watch this. July 26, 1948, President Truman signed an executive order that desegregated the U.S. military, the U.S. armed forces. The act was long overdue, it says, particularly for African-American nurses who had just served in World War II. I don't think y'all heard that. I said the act was long overdue, particularly for African-American nurses who had just served in World War II. Lord have mercy. Though the United States had been at war against Hitler's racist regime, Jim Crow segregation permeated American culture and the entire military, including the U.S. Army Nurse Corps. Black nurses who served in the war found themselves in one of two places. Are y'all ready for this? Segregated bases with Black soldiers or German prisoner of war camps. Did y'all hear what I said? Did you all hear what I just said? We honor our sisters. Watch this. Let me go back. Though the United States had been at war, that's the part I just read, with Hitler's racist regime. Don't forget that part. They were in one or two places, it says, where these U.S. nurses had to serve, right? Or found themselves, rather. What? In segregated bases with black soldiers or German prisoner of war camps. Watch this. At the segregated bases, black nurses served in all black units, lived in colored barracks, worked in colored hospitals, ate in separate dining areas, and socialized in segregated spaces on the base. Along with the separate facilities, black nurses endured racist treatment from local white residents in town, fellow white army officers, and even from German prisoners of war. I'm going to say that again. I love you back, David. I love you back. Listen, I don't want us to miss this. I don't want us to miss this. Shout out to you, Larry Robinson, for your gift. Oh, that's my brother, for your 777. He says, Queen Vicky Dillard, namaste. And what does that say? Namaskar to you, beloved. Thank you for your sacrifice of love to the black people. Oh, it's my honor, dear brother. That brother right there is, don't let him trick you. Look up Larry W. Robinson. He's a force to be reckoned with. He's a networker. He's somebody that's in the know. Shout out to you, dear brother. Listen, watch this. Watch this. It says that these black soldiers, these black female soldiers, it says what? Along with separate facilities. Shout out to you, Tech, for your gift. Black nurses endured what? Racist treatment from local white residents in town, fellow white army officers, and from German prisoners of war. May I say, let me just say this parenthetically. The nurses received mistreatment from the enemy, like these German prisoners of war. But they also received mistreatment from fellow white army officials, right? Little did they know that although these black female soldiers signed up to serve American soldiers who were injured, they didn't understand that it didn't matter who they were serving. It was the enemy to black folk, whether it was the Germans or the American soldiers. Somebody black talk black to me. It didn't matter if it was the Nazis or American soldiers. For black people, we could not differentiate or discern who the enemy was. You were both the same to us. During World War II, there were 371,683 German POWs who were captured in Europe and North America. Y'all think about that. Then shipped to the United States and detained in more than 600 camps across the country. Did you all know that? During World War II, watch this, 371,000, that's dang near 400,000 German POWs that were captured in Europe and Northern Africa, and they were brought here to the United States and detained in 600 camps across the country. Listen, prisoners of war, that's what the POW means, under rules set by the Geneva Convention, could be made to work for the detaining power. So those that we captured, those POWs, could be made to work for America, right? And with millions of American men away serving in the military, y'all listen, there was a significant labor shortage in the United States. Is that making sense? Does that make sense? Because so many of them were off to war, there was a labor shortage, it says, here in America at the time. But we had hundreds of thousands of POWs here in this country in about 600 camps. Are y'all ready? With millions of American men away serving in the military, there was a significant shortage in the United States. Farms, canneries, plants, and other industries needed German POWs as workers, and Black Army nurses were overwhelmingly assigned to POW camps. Take that in. Somebody say these are more reasons that supplement our demand and case for reparations. Y'all play too much. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Be sure to like, be sure to share. Listen. To them, the Black nurses who signed up to serve, the assignment could be deeply troubling. Black nurses volunteered to serve wounded American soldiers, not the enemy. What did I just tell you guys? Unfortunately, our Black sisters didn't recognize that it didn't matter who they were serving, whether it was Americans or the Germans. They were both the enemy for us because of our never-ending war with America. Watch this. Black nurses volunteered. It had taken decades for Black nurses to be admitted in the U.S. Army Nurse Corps, and to be given the task of caring for soldiers in Hitler's army felt like a betrayal. They were forced to serve Nazis. Did y'all hear what I just said? These Black women were assigned to nurse white men Nazis. Y'all play too much. The interactions between the POWs and Black nurses were largely civilized, but there were reported incidents where Nazis beliefs of racial superiority were on full display. It talks about at a particular camp outside of Phoenix, a German POW declared that he hated Black people in front of a Black nurse. When the commanding officer of the camp didn't issue any punishment. Did y'all hear that? When the commanding officer, that's an American officer, heard this German say that, they didn't do anything. Watch this. The nurse, the Black nurse, filed a complaint dated August 1st, 1944 to the National Association of Colored Graduate Nurses. I quote a part of her complaint. "That is the worst insult an Army officer should ever have to take. I think it is an insult enough to be here taking care of them when we volunteered to come into the Army to nurse military personnel. All of this is making us very bitter." Somebody say, shout out to Black women. Somebody say, shout out to the Black female soldiers proper. Lord have mercy. I hope y'all are with me. This is a place for intelligent Black people. Y'all listen. What did the nurse say? She said, this is the worst insult an Army officer should ever have to take. She knew she was an officer. They knew she was an officer. But the racism in America, the war against Black folk in America was so real that they were forced to care for these other enemy soldiers. I said these other enemy soldiers, because see, America won't call themselves Black enemy soldiers, but we know what to call you. Keep listening. Long before World War II, Black nurses had been struggling to serve their country. When the United States, watch this, y'all, watch this. Did y'all hear what I just said? Before World War II, Black nurses, how many of you all knew that, were struggling to serve their country? Lynched, spit on, set on fire, murdered, whipped, traumatized, and so much more. Black nurses were still signing up to serve this country. Isn't that something, Black family? I've said something similar on a regular basis. Isn't that something that Black folk fought America for the right to fight for them? Did y'all hear what I just said? Isn't that something, Black family? How Black America fought for the right to fight for America. Fought America for the right to fight for America. We fought America for the right to fight for America. We fought America for the right to fight for America. We fought America for the right to fight for America. Think on that on this Memorial Day. When the United States entered World War I in 1917, please listen to this very carefully. And while you're listening to this, because I think some of you may know where I'm going to get ready to go when you listen to this next war story. Somebody say, we're talking about Black war stories. Little known or little talked about war stories. Listen, I'm not going to be before you long. In 1917, Black nurses tried to enroll in the Army Nurse Corps, but were rejected because of their skin color. Watch this. A few Black nurses eventually served, but not because the Army Nurses Corps finally accepted them. Y'all want to know why? They finally opened up the door for Black female soldiers, Black female nurses to serve. Y'all want to hear it? The flu epidemic, God today. The flu epidemic wiped out so many thousands of people that a handful of African American nurses were called to assist. I said to you, keep in mind the times that we're in right now. Black family, you know I like to connect the dots. Black family, what pandemic are we dealing with right now in 2020? I need somebody Black to talk Black to me. Lord have mercy. Who are considered to be the frontline soldiers in this so-called war on COVID-19 coronavirus? Who's disproportionately on the front lines as nurses aides, as hospital sanitation workers, as drivers and the like? Who? Lord have mercy, y'all play too much. Thumbs up, Black family. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Make sure that you're liking and sharing. Did y'all hear what I just said? Did you all hear what I just said? Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Give me a second. I want you to listen to this next part. I want you to listen to this next part. Here we go. Watch this. As I do that, keep liking and sharing. Keep liking and sharing, family. The Army. Hold on, I lost my little spot here. We're talking about the nurses, the Army Nurse Corps. The Army Nurse Corps, right? The Army Nurse Corps. Watch this. I said a few Black nurses were eventually served. Black nurses eventually served. Watch. Not because the Army Nurse Corps finally accepted them. Why? What did I say? But it was because of what? The flu epidemic. Somebody say America was in trouble. America was in trouble. So you called for the Black woman. You called for the Black woman that you had previously rejected and made difficult to serve you and fight for you. Watch this. The flu epidemic wiped out so many thousands of people that a handful of African American nurses were called to assist. My God, today. The military improper are some of our Black sister soldiers on the front lines right now amidst another type of epidemic. Is that right, family? We're dealing with another type of epidemic. They're calling it actually a global pandemic. Is that right? Connect the dots, Black family. Watch this. Decades later, after Hitler invaded Poland, the United States began an intense war preparedness program, and the Army Nurses Corps expanded its recruiting process. Thousands of Black nurses who wanted to serve their country and earn a steady military income filled out applications and received the following letter. Quote, this is a letter from America to the Black women who would be soldiers. Your application to the Army Nurse Corps cannot be given favorable consideration, as there are no provisions in Army regulations for the appointment of colored nurses in the Corps. Do you all see how we're on multiple war fronts? Black family, do you understand that your life is not like everybody else? Do you understand that the truth and the lies of COVID-19, coronavirus, SARS 2.0, don't you understand that they are lying about a lot of stuff? But don't you understand that it is also weaponized by different white supremacists on different levels? And so Black folk ought to take cover because of how it's misused against us. Your life ain't like everybody else. When you see white folks out there jumping around in swimming pools together, when you see them out there spitting and huffing and puffing on each other and sweating and carrying on and excited to get out and about, talking about the government line, sit your funny looking self down, say that ain't got nothing to do with you. Because I did whole shows explaining to you how white supremacists weaponize their own spit as a weapon against you. Those that were marching on capitals with their AK-47s and their long big guns, they were doing it, Black family, with their Nazi symbols, their American flags, their Confederate flags. They made sure to put their racism, they mixed that in there. That ain't got nothing to do with you. Your funny looking self don't look right out there talking about, yeah, the government line. This ain't real. Sit your funny looking self down. Black folks are affected by the truth and the lies of COVID-19. So even when they officially open up stuff, you still better social distance as much as possible. You still better use your mask as much as possible. You better take cover. What they're talking about ain't got nothing to do with you. We know they had contaminated tests talking about Black folks had all these diseases. We know that some of the tests was contaminated, but guess what? The numbers are disproportionate against us. We know that this started out in white spaces, but it made its way into Black urban spaces. Y'all better pay attention. You guys are talking about how all of the powers that shouldn't be, that are involved in this, their nefarious involvement. You trying to talk to us about the vaccination plot. I know all that's true, but at every turn, stuff is weaponized against Black folks. Sit your funny looking self down somewhere. Our life is not like everybody else's. Just like in this, with the Black female Nurses Corps, where they were rejected from serving, just like our Black male soldiers, as we know were rejected from serving this country. They did better by their open enemies. They did better by the Nazis than they did with us. They had better relations in the barracks and in the mess halls than they did with us. Sit your funny looking self down somewhere. Thumbs up, family. Make sure that you like and share. I know this was a surprise show. I know a lot of folks are busy and they're probably enjoying their times and all this kind of stuff. But I believe at the right time, the right people will view this podcast. You can help them by liking and sharing. Listen. It says, however painful the rejection notice was, an honest assessment of how Black nurses were regarded. The military that didn't see them as fit to wear an Army nurse uniform, despite their comparable education and training to white nurses. The National Association of Colored Graduate Nurses, the NACGN, an advocacy organization founded in 1908 for Black nurses, registered nurses, challenged the letter. Our folks was on it even then. And with political pressure from civil rights groups and the black press, I think y'all missed that. I think y'all missed that. Somebody say shout out for black media. Did you hear what it says? It says, and with political pressure from civil rights groups and the black press, 56 nurses were finally admitted into the U.S. Army Nurse Corps in 1941, all sent to segregated bases in the South. I'm not saying that it's a thing to be proud of for us now to be, merging into our white supremacist official military proper, because we've learned a lot since then. But I'm just saying at the time, to the degree we felt there was success and we were making inroads, notice once again the involvement of the black press. Don't discount, not the old dead black media. Somebody tell black to me. Ain't talking about the old dead black media. We're talking about the effective grassroots black media. Pay attention to where we are in this day and in our time. Don't forget, these are historic times. The times we're in now, we are in unusual and historic times, black family. Watch this. I want you to look at this picture. The picture you're looking at right now, this also came from the National Archives. This picture that you're about to view is the U.S. nurses. I'm trying to enlarge it for you. Is the U.S. Army nurses at a lecture at the Army Nurse Training Center in England in 1944. I said in England in 1944. Do you all see the sisters sitting there? Do you all see our sisters there? It goes on to say other things here, but it talked about how serving at POW camps was considered a second-rate assignment, and the camps were isolating and lonely for black nurses. They were routinely left out of meetings with white officers and weren't invited to their social functions. There wasn't much job fulfillment at the POW hospitals either. Watch this. For German POWs, at least from a social standpoint, they fared better. Y'all, please listen to this. I don't want you to miss this. I don't want you to miss this. For German POWs, at least from a social standpoint, they fared better than black nurses. German prisoners of war, America's so-called enemy, who she detained in camps. It says here that for German POWs, they fared better than the black nurses. White civilians and military personnel were friendly towards them, a level of respect that black nurses did not experience with any regularity. When the German prisoners first arrived in the U.S., many were surprised by the segregation and racism in America, according to Matthias Reis, a senior lecturer in history at the University of England, of Exeter, England. Excuse me. I hope I pronounced it right. In one train depot in Texas, a group of black soldiers were denied access to the whites-only dining hall. Y'all listen. Yet saw through a window a group of German POWs and their American guards sitting at a table together, laughing and eating. Let that soak in. I know the nurses said they felt humiliated when they were forced to serve these German POWs, but black family, the enemy for us, we can tell no difference. The enemy for us, we can tell no difference. Did you all hear what I just said? I'm going to read this part again because this is American history. In one train depot in Texas, a group of black soldiers were denied access to whites-only dining hall, even in the military. Yet saw through a window a group of German POWs and their American guards, sitting at a table together, laughing and eating. White supremacy is a universal religion and government. When you have your Democrats try to scare Black folk into voting for them, and they try to tell us about Russian intervention, Russians trying to target Black folks in an effort to suppress our votes. Let me tell you something, I've said it before. Yes, I believe it's possible that maybe the Russians did something, but we know in America, they steal our votes here. They disenfranchise us here too. So it's white folk across the water, and it's white folk right here in America that's trying to mess with our votes. And it's the same as it relates to every other thing when it comes down to us. In the same way, they gave white immigrants large swaths of land under the Homestead Act. Very few Black folks officially got land under the act. It was primarily white folk, white immigrants from other countries. America was willing to give other folk who were not foundational Black Americans access and land and training. And somebody say government welfare. They are the real welfare queens and kings. They were willing to give them the so-called American dream before they ever gave us 40 acres at a mute. When we got some land, when we purchased some land, when we developed the land, and we were thriving in our lands and cities and towns, what did America do with her jealous, hating self? We weren't paying them no mind. Well, nobody talking about no integration. We were thriving in our cities and towns. We knew we built America. So right after slavery, we did the same thing again for ourselves. And what did America do? She dropped bombs. She set stuff on fire. She destroyed it. Keep in mind, as I'm reading this, when we're telling Joe Biden, when we're telling Donald Trump, when we're telling America that nobody is going to get our vote unless y'all cut the check, we mean what we say. Thumbs up, family. Like and share. Don't forget also to check out our store, shopfnq.com. That's shopfnq.com. Watch this. I want to say something else to you. I was doing a little research. On our military service, right? Watch this. I want you to take a look at this picture that I pulled up. It's old, so you got to look at it very closely. Can you all look? Can you all see our brothers there? Can you all see these Black soldiers there? Look at our brothers. Look at our family. Watch this. The picture that you just saw, watch this. President Theodore Roosevelt and his quote unquote Rough Riders. How many of y'all heard of Rough Riders before? How many of you all have heard of Rough Riders? President Theodore Roosevelt and his Rough Riders are remembered as heroes of the Spanish-American War. Didn't I just say that we fought in all of America's wars? We're going to get ready to talk about some of America's war proper, military proper wars that we served in. But listen to this specifically about the Spanish-American War. President Theodore Roosevelt and his Rough Riders are remembered as heroes of the Spanish-American War, a total fabrication, according to Jerry Tussle, author of the recent book, The Roughest Riders. Somebody say the roughest riders. Somebody say the roughest riders. Somebody say the roughest riders. According to his book, The untold story. It's called The Roughest Riders, the untold story of the black soldiers in the Spanish-American War. Somebody say, we aren't just the Rough Riders, we were the roughest riders. The author says that black troops, also known as Buffalo Soldiers, y'all have heard of that term before too, haven't you? Buffalo Soldiers, he said, did the heavy fighting at the infamous Battle of San Juan Hill. But racism and Roosevelt's giant ego led them to be left out of the official story. Oh, baby, we're going to tell the story today. That's why you're tuned into Black media. America, this is a quote from him, America loved black troops when they were war fodder. But later, white people feared and resented them, he says. He sat down with for this particular show that he was a part of, and I listened to the interview as well, to discuss the Buffalo Soldiers and Roosevelt's big cover-up and the legacy of racism in the military. We find out later that how initially Roosevelt told the truth about the power of these black men. But in order to save face, he tried to act like that they had nefarious motives for why the black men signed up for the military in the first place. He tried to mitigate the impact and the power of the roughest soldiers during this particular war. But we're here to acknowledge them today. That's just one of many. Shout out to you, LaShawn, for your gift. I bless your gift 1,000-fold. Watch this. One other simple aspect, not simple by any means, that's the wrong word to use, but one other thing that I want us to remember on this Memorial Day. Watch this. Give me just a second here, family. I want to pull this up. Let me pull this up. Here we go. I want you to keep this aspect in mind. This is from Battlefield's site about American Battlefield Trust. And in this section is talking about the African Americans, it says, and the war for independence. Somebody, how many of you all know who Crispus Attucks is? How many of you all know who Crispus Attucks is? Well, I'm making a point. These are some things that I want you to keep in mind whenever black folks talk about who's the most patriotic. And I'm not talking about it just to make that point. What I'm trying to do is to tell you that the reason why some of these stories are little known is because white America doesn't want us to discuss our black soldiers and how conquering and victorious they were, men and women, how important, essential, and powerful they were. Why? Because they don't want you to get any ideas. And they want to control war stories so that you can never properly identify your true enemy of almost 5 centuries. Did you all hear what I just said? Did you all hear what I just said? They don't revere black soldiers, black military prowess, black excellence, and even war and counter war, because they don't want you to get any ideas, family. Whenever black folk talk about fighting, it ain't never when you see police beating up and violating the rights of your black mama. Oh, you don't pick up the sword then. You don't pick up your military weapons then to defend your own black woman. Oh, but when the white man tells you to enlist and to go fight an enemy across the waters for America's interests, which most times it has to do with the mistreatment of other people in other countries, so that we can manipulate and make mischief in their governments and in their elections, so that we can steal some resource. Our military installations and bases around the country is not just so that we can be there to defend other people, beloved. It's so that we can be a bully. Somebody black talk black to me. Sunderbeam says, excellent show. Thank you, beloved. I know these subjects, all of us, maybe everybody don't like to talk about stuff like this, but I was moved to do this show today. And the right people at the right time will hear it. Listen to me. They don't want to tell you war stories of conquering black men and women because they don't want you to get any ideas. The only time you ought to be thinking about war is when you're trying to fight for your open enemy. They don't ever want you to connect the dots to defend yourself righteously. Back to Crispus Attucks. The link is in the chat, by the way, so that you can read this yourself from battlefields.org. Listen. It talks about how Ronald Reagan in 1986 signed into law Black Revolutionary War Patriots Act. This authorized a memorial to be erected in the nation's capital and was deemed as Area 1, the National Mall and its environs. It says, listen, the planned memorial, it says, will honor the 5,000 enslaved and free African Americans who served the cause of independence from 1775 to 1781. As of 2015, according to this piece, the planned commemorative sculpture is referred to as the National Liberty Memorial. The significant role African Americans played in the war for independence cannot be disputed. I'm going to say that again. I said the significant role that African Americans played in the war for independence cannot be disputed. We served with distinction for the American cause, from the opening engagements at Lexington and Concord to the climactic siege of Yorktown 8 years later. Y'all ready for this? Never forget this. Many also served in the nation American Navy or on board numerous American privateers. Watch this. In fact, Crispus Attucks, y'all remember the name, a Bostonian employed, y'all probably remember that name, in the maritime industries, was one of the first Americans of any race to die for freedom as one of the 5 victims of the Boston Massacre in March of 1770. America, you can't tell us nothing about patriotism. I don't want to see the war criminal's daughter, that is Meghan McCain, sit her funny looking self on The View talking about military service and what it means to be an American and patriotism. Sit your funny looking self down. Because there are different kinds of soldiers. Watch this. We fought in all y'all's wars. Black military history spans pre-American, before the Revolutionary War, Black family, until now. Before America was a country, family, we were fighting for her. What wars did we fight in? The Revolutionary War. When America claims that she broke free from what? While she was breaking free from Britain because of oppression. While she enslaved us. Listen. And I'm almost done. Revolutionary War. Are y'all hearing me? The War of 1812. Somebody talk black to me. I'm talking about your black mothers and fathers. Especially your black fathers, we also know served on the front lines. Listen, the Mexican-American War, the Civil War, the Spanish-American War. Think on this. World War I, World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam, Gulf War, Afghanistan, Iraq, and other what they call minor wars, which are no minor wars at all. Those were the sneaky ones that they wouldn't officially acknowledge in the same way as these others like Yemen and Somalia. Somebody talk black to me. Those are what I'm calling the military or war proper. We honor and we salute the black fallen, our now ancestors that fought in all of America's wars, while she wasn't even free, while she still had the whip marks on her back, on his back, and serving for America in the hopes that one day they could actually get free. Listen, war improper, or the wars that America didn't like to call it that, we acknowledge. What about COINTELPRO? This is Memorial Day, and we are here to honor the fallen. We're here to honor the fallen of our family in the Revolutionary War, War of 1812, all of the ones I just mentioned, the Mexican War, Civil War, Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam, Gulf Wars, and all of that, right? I call those military proper, war proper. But let us, black family, on this day acknowledge some of the other kinds of soldiers, those that were fallen in COINTELPRO. How many of you all know what I'm talking about? How many of you all know when America, we know now through documents that we had to force them to turn over to us legally, we had to file lawsuits. We had to go through legal change to get some of this paperwork. And how many of you all know we still don't have all of the documents that we need? And how many of you all know that some of the documents that we have, they've been redacted or they've been covered up? But black war, anti-black war, improper like COINTELPRO. Malcolm X was murdered because of this by the government. Dr. Martin Luther King, that we now know, of course, in no limit of time, was murdered because of this. America waged war on her so-called black citizens. War improper. We acknowledge the fallen. Medgar Evers. And the other nameless black sisters and primarily black men that were hung, that were lynched, that was set on fire, that was dismembered, whose body parts was eaten. And like the Jesus that some of you all like to read about of 2,000 years ago when they gambled for his clothing. Do you all remember the show that I did a few days ago, a podcast where I gave you the receipts that show you how white folks were literally fighting over body parts of black folks that had been barbecued, and they would take the poaching stick to fight for who would get whatever leftover pieces of bone and pieces of body part. They were literally hundreds of them. Thousands attended, but hundreds stayed over to fight over the body parts. How many of you all remember when I told you that W.E.B. Du Bois recounted an incident where he went to a store, I believe it was in Atlanta, and at the store, they had on display black body parts. And we were reminded that the governors was given black body parts as a gift. When we talk about reparations, when we say cut the check, we're not playing with you funny looking people. When we're talking about Memorial Day, we're remembering those soldiers as well. Remember the black fallen because of chattel slavery. Remember the black fallen because of sharecropping and dying in the field. Remember the black fallen, convict leasing our black brothers behind bars, which was the new slavery under another name. Remember our Black Panthers that were murdered and set up by this government. This is Memorial Day. Somebody say salute. And at the end of this broadcast, and I'm almost finished, I want you to join with me together to do a formal salute of our black brothers and sisters. How many of you all remember the falling of Jim Crow? And even the modern new Jim Crow. General anti-black American war. But there's also another war that America called a war, but she called it under another name, but it was a black war, and we've got proof and we've got receipts to prove it. Are y'all ready for this? Are y'all ready for this? I'm talking about war improper. These are the wars that America, in other words, they don't want to acknowledge that she's still waging on us. And she did it undercover. This theater of war that we're still engaged in right now. Thumbs up, like and share, Black family. Are y'all ready for this? Which war do I want to remind us about of right now? May we never forget the black fallen and the different kinds of soldiers on this Memorial Day. What about the war on drugs? What about the fallen for the war on drugs? Well, Vicky, they called it the war on drugs. Don't white people do drugs? Well, yes, they drug heads. Yes, a lot of white folks are drug heads. But what do I know? What do I know? I'm reading from an article from last year, from 2019, Business Insider. I just wanted to have a link for you all to easily access as an admission. The link is in the chat for you, so you know I'm not lying. Top Nixon advisor. You know, I've mentioned this before. Top Nixon advisor reveals the racist reason he started the, quote, war on drugs decades ago. Are y'all ready for this? This is the picture that they use for this article. Nixon. You can't get any higher than the president of the United States or the White House. The stuff that the CIA did to murder and kill us with crack cocaine and all the other stuff that they did and drugs. The CIA, they were just a military arm of the White House. Do you hear what I'm saying? And it was not restricted to just the Nixon administration, as you know. Listen, as you keep liking and sharing. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Vicky X Dillard and follow me on my Facebook fan page at Vicky Dillard. Listen. The piece, the bullet points analysis says for Business Insider, President Richard Nixon in 1971 declared a U.S. war on drugs. That's a quote. That hasn't saved the U.S. from the dangers of drugs, but has fueled migrant crisis and the mass incarceration of minorities in the U.S. Are y'all ready for this? Are y'all ready for this? A top Nixon aide told an author that the policy was specifically designated to target opposition to Nixon. Of the two opposition entities, guess what the first one was? Blacks. And it says the second was the hippies. America can never leave us out of their racism. It doesn't matter what's going on in the world. COVID-19, they make room for racism. With all that's going on with this global pandemic, they make time to manifest their utter hate and disgust of us. Listen to this war on drugs. Y'all ready for this admission? We're talking about the fallen soldiers from the war on drugs that was really the war on black folks. Vicky, prove it. The other piece says from this Business Insider, today hundreds of thousands of people of color languish in jail for drug charges as the U.S.'s seemingly insatiable appetite for drugs wreaks havoc on countries in Latin America, fueling humanitarian crises at the border and beyond. But listen, President Richard Nixon of 1971 declared a U.S. war on drugs. Isn't that what they called it? That over the decades fueled mass incarceration and the crisis, it says, at the U.S.'s border, without preventing Americans from accessing dangerous drugs. And one of his top aides, what did I say? Someone that worked in President Richard Nixon's administration. A top aide says it's because it was a racist policy implemented as a power grab. Criminalizing possession of drugs like heroin and marijuana was intended to, quote, disrupt two of the biggest anti-establishment forces opposed Nixon. One of his top advisors later admitted. So you got to learn how to read how white folks talk. It's always about us. They weaponize everything. Nixon, the only U.S. president to resign in scandal, although we advised Trump to do the same, presided over the waning days of the Vietnam War, a relentlessly brutal fight over faraway lands that nominally represented a fight between free world and communism. It goes on to talk more about that, right? I'm skipping. Chronically, the civil rights and Black liberation movements also dovetailed into Vietnam War era. Didn't we also serve in Vietnam? But we were also serving here in America at the same time on another war front. There are multiple war fronts that we face. As Nixon sought to tamp down dissent over deeply unpopular war, two politically powerful non-establishment forces rose. Blacks was one. That's the one I'm going to talk about. John Earl Lynchman, last name is spelled like this, E-H-R-L-I-C-H-M-A-N. That's Nixon's aide on domestic affairs. We ain't making up nothing. We're giving you inside White House aide confessions into the president's war on drugs. He says, this domestic affairs, John Earl Lynchman, Dan Baum, the author of 1996, Smoke and Mirrors. Let me go back. That John Earl Lynchman, Nixon's aide on domestic affairs, he was eventually convicted in the Watergate scandal, had a plan for them, it says. Dan Baum, the author of the 1996 Smoke and Mirrors, The War on Drugs and the Politics of Failure, wrote in Harper's Magazine in 2016 that while researching his book, Earl Lynchman gave a reason for the war of drugs that had little to do with protecting Americans from reefer madness. Shout out to you, Silent D Production. Watch this and look at the picture that they use. Y'all see us? Look at the picture that they use. That's Black Panther Party leader identified as Shotgun addresses a midday rally of Illinois Black Panthers outside of the federal building of downtown Chicago in May 1st, 1969. Baum wrote that Earl Lynchman, following his very public scrutiny and conviction, had little left to protect and came clean about a shocking truth. Quote, "You want to know what this was really all about?" Earl Lynchman asked, referring to the war on drugs. Quote, "The Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies of the anti-war left and Black people." The anti-war left and Black people. You understand what I'm saying? I'm still quoting the guy. We knew we couldn't make it legal. No, we knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black. Did you hear that? He said, we knew we couldn't make either the war or black. We couldn't make that illegal. But by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. This is a White House insider top aide telling you how they secretly declared war on black folk. They called it the war on drugs, but it was a war on black people. Did you all hear the strategy? He said, we knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily. Remember a long time ago, I told you guys that America created crimes in order to entrap black folk and drive them back on the plantation? I said they created crimes. I'm almost done on this Memorial Day. He says we knew by criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Do you guys see when I say that media is a part of warfare? And you guys understand now the attack on the effective black grassroots media? Not the old dead black media who's happy to be on just white media and ignore black media. Do you see the role that they play? They're interconnected. So when you parrot and when you repeat stuff that you hear on white mainstream news and you don't do your research to vet it, you could be advancing an anti-black war strategy and you are participating in it when you're not conscious of the fact that that's war and that's how they program you. That's a part of also mind control. We could arrest their leaders. First, we could disrupt their communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did, he concluded. How many crackhead men and women, how many heroin heads did we see lying in the streets that died because the U.S. government made war on them? How many funerals have you heard about or may have attended? Obituaries that you may have read. Those are fallen soldiers because of this war on black folk that they called a war on drugs, that we now know officially by confession from a high-level White House aide that they just called it a war on drugs in order for them to war against us. I'm going to end it with this today. This morning, I listened to a few minutes of Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, who's been giving us daily briefs on the coronavirus. We know that New York was hardest hit initially. They took what some consider to be very stringent action, and they are seeing their numbers fall. They are seeing some levels of success, even though they don't want to go overboard. But they know that the success that they're seeing is because they took strong action in the beginning. I personally know people in New York that have succumbed or had been ill because of coronavirus. One particular minister in the Nation of Islam, Minister Hafiz, literally died. A minister in the nation out of New York because of coronavirus. Today, Andrew Cuomo said for his state, because, governors, they're able to, they govern their state. and him being governor of New York, he announced today that his state is going to pay death benefits to the survivors' family members who fell because of coronavirus. That includes if you were a driver, a train driver, whether you were a nurse, the doctors, and other public employees. He said that when he shut down New York, but he called upon these certain ones that had to still go to work, those that died, they're going to receive death benefits. I was moved by that. I thought that was proper, just, and right. We know that a lot of Black folks are disproportionately affected, not just because we had diabetes or high blood pressure. Some of our folks were affected by coronavirus because we were serving as essential workers, which means it made us more susceptible to the disease, right? That's right, dual first responders, all of those. That includes all of that. I thought that was good. I was moved by that. You know what he said? He says it's not right that we thank them in word. He says that he lives with the fact that every day when he shut down the state, he at the same time demanded that they put their life on the line and serve. So he says that their survivors are going to get death benefits. I say that's a good thing. But you know what I also thought about? On this Memorial Day, we remember the different kinds of soldiers. Who else do you think I was thinking about? Andrew Cuomo said it just makes sense that he cuts the check for the soldiers, those that paid the price, for others in his state that survived and that benefited because they served. Who do you guys think I'm thinking about right now? Joe Biden? Democratic Party acknowledging that Black folk are the foundation, they're the base for your party. Can you guys guess what I was thinking about? If it came to mind and if it made sense to cut the check for the essential workers that died because of coronavirus, you can also know that this is more, that same reasoning that Governor Cuomo had to cut the check for all of those essential workers. We're still remaining unrelenting and uncompromising in our demand for reparations for the original soldiers, the original patriots, for war proper and war improper in this country. Joe Biden, Simone Sanders was on MSNBC the other day telling everybody about Joe Biden's Black plan of Lift Every Voice. Another rapper, what's his name? Was it Ice Cube, y'all? Came out talking some of our talking points, just like P. Diddy is talking our talking points, just like Charlemagne the God, they're talking our talking points. And that's got white America and the Democratic Party in particular a little shook. Because we're saying that they're going to have to earn our vote. So Simone Sanders, who responded to the superstars, but she has not really substantively responded to the grassroots Black media like us, who they get their talking points from. Because see, all the celebrities and the superstars and the Black bootlicks and stuff, they weren't talking about seriously reparations and demanding something for the vote. They were still telling you to show up whether you get something or not. Shout out to you, Victor. I bless your gift 1,000-fold. Simone Sanders tweeted to, I believe it was Ice Cube. She tweeted to him, here's the plan. Here's Joe Biden's Black plan. Do you know what the problem is with Joe Biden's 22-page Black plan called Lift Every Voice? The problem with you white overseers, with you telling us this is my Black agenda, you know what the problem is with that Black agenda? Is you are telling us what the Black policy is. You got it twisted. We're telling you And it starts with this, very simple. Cut the check. Somebody send Simone Sanders this link. Somebody send Joe Biden this link. Somebody send Kamala Harris. Somebody send Elizabeth Warren. Somebody send Amy Klobuchar. Somebody send Val Demings. Somebody send some of those well-known politicians who they claim is in the running for Joe Biden to pick as VP. Send this to any political operative that you can think of. Some of those black women that were sitting on Joy Reid's panel the other day, talking about they just wanted a black female VP. I ain't studying no black female VP. The only person that's a come up for is that one individual. We're in a time of war. What do black folks look like? Dividing gender, experiencing gender divides in a time of war for black folks. We need to be unified in what we say. Cutting the check will benefit every single foundational black American. Cut the check. And the people that's talking about a black VP, y'all wouldn't even put no demands on Joe Biden before you heard us out here talking about cut the check. You guys just came out and said something to deflect. Sit your funny looking self down. We ain't studying no black female Supreme Court nominee either. That's just for show. That's symbolism. That's not substance. That's tangible. That's non-tangibles. We're talking about tangibles. That stuff that we can actually move and transfer and benefit from. Cut the check. We all can benefit from that. That's where you start. The problem with Joe Biden's so-called black agenda is that you're trying to dictate to us what the agenda is. And I want you to know, no, we're telling you. And if that lift every voice, which it doesn't have it in there, since it doesn't say cut the check, since you're not talking about approximately as a starting point, $20 trillion, that's with the T, for the foundational black American descendants of American slaves, then it's no good as far as I'm concerned. I can't speak for none of your little bootlicks and the little Sambos and all these new people. But for Vicky, as for me and my house, it's cut the check. What's wrong with Joe Biden's black agenda? He got a black agenda. The problem with the black agenda is you're trying to dictate to us. And we're telling you this is what it is. Or no vote. We remember our fallen soldiers. From war proper or war improper. Family, make sure you subscribe to FlyNubianQueen.com. Make sure you're subscribed to FlyNubianQueenTV.com, that you share, that you like. At the bottom of the screen, hit the share button, copy the link, and share it out with everybody. Let them know I did a special Memorial Day podcast. Enjoy the day with your family. But before we go, when a person salutes, it's a sign of respect, and it's typically used in armed services and law enforcement mostly, right, family? And because we know there are different kinds of soldiers and black folks deal with multiple war fronts, I want us together to get ready to salute the fallen from the war on drugs, Jim Crow, new Jim Crow, convict leasing, sharecropping, chattel slavery, our beloved black family that served in war proper and war improper, the wars that America never wanted to admit was going on. Are you ready? Get ready to get your right hand together. Would you get ready with me as a sign of respect, as a gesture to honor the fallen ancestors? We remember you. We honor you, the crackhead, the heroin head that died because of the war on drugs. We salute you now on the count of three with your right hand. On the count of three with your right hand. Let us salute our black fallen soldiers on this Memorial Day, and we vow to fight for you. Are you ready? Are you ready? Salute. I came to you in peace. I leave you in peace. I love you. And thank you for tuning in to this special edition, Memorial Day.